My garbage disposal broke, but I don't want to tell my landlord.
Why?
Because he might raise my rent.
Well, my 95-year-old neighbor watches TV at 80 decibels.
How loud is that?
Crazy loud.
How do laundry machines still require quarters?
My toilet paper delivery came in 2 large boxes. That's too many boxes.
Have such a good day.
Good day, mates, peeps, dogs, homies.
Good day.
Good day.
Good day.
Greetings and salutations.
Fosters, Australian phobia. It's the only 2 things I know. Actually, no, there's one more.
What?
When this is only based on one Australian woman friend I had at one point, and when she said, "Oh no," it was "Arnar."
Oh, I love that.
And so even to this
Arnar.
day, like when
It
someone's
sounds like
like,
an
Australian, so I sort of say under my breath, "Arnar." And
Arnar.
yeah, but I'm like, that's exactly how
Sounds
it
like
sounds.
a dog.
It's like, and I'm not good at accents. We've kind of talked about this actually.
Neither am I.
Yeah, I'm woefully bad, in fact.
Yes,
But
me
I
too.
can say "oh no" like a real Australian,
A real champ.
And I also know that New Zealanders say "fush" instead of "fish," and that's not something that Australians do.
Oh,
because
interesting.
the two islands have they know the difference.
Oh, yeah.
The rest of us get confused.
Let's just
But
move
when
there
someone
and
says
learn all of
"fush,"
this stuff.
you know that they're from New Zealand.
I would
They're
love to
a Hobbit
learn.
person.
I love all the vernacular of these places. It's not just the language you would learn in a book. It's the slang that I like, the street talk. That's what really makes you get to know a culture. I love it.
Me too.
Super cool.
Me too.
And there's-
a mec. In French,
Yep.
for example. I guess that's not really slangy. That everybody
It
knows
is,
that.
but it's basically you flip the word and you read it backwards.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
so
yeah.
clever. And then in England they
we're
have
actually
like
just for context. If anyone's like, "What are you talking about?" In French, that's sort of like a slang for a dude.
yeah.
Yeah, it's like saying a dude
Or
rather
you say
than a
mef.
man.
Mef is femme, so Femme, mef, and it goes all over the place. But there's in Britain, I love the rhyming slang is so cool. It's like something in the pocket, like it. I can't remember any of them actually, but they're really cool.
Sounds good.
Maybe I'll write some down for the next show.
Something in the pocket is my market.
It's a locket. Anyway, welcome to Have Such a Good Day.
Hey everybody,
That's our show.
How's it going? Episode 6.
Woo,
What
woo.
up? We are 6 weeks in.
We're rolling right along.
Yeah, this is more than a month and less than 2, but we're starting to feel kind of comfortable in our strides.
We're in a little bit of a rhythm. I mean, there's,
I think so.
I mean, our wardrobe is a little random. I mean, speaking of myself, but
I mean, Heather, you look lovely. You look lovely. For anybody who's only listening to the audio version of the podcast, this is a really quick plug. If you are a Patreon subscriber of $1 or more per month, you have access to our video feed. And
that's right.
And we, my cats are in the background. They don't say much, but they offer us a lot of just kind of moral support.
there's a hodgepodge of fashion.
There's a hodgepodge of fashion and snacks.
I mean,
and
one day it might be, Sarah's wearing her pajamas and I'm wearing like this like fancy dress, and it might be the other way around the following week. I mean,
Except
we just
that it
never
won't
know.
be. 'Cause I'm not going to wear a fancy dress on the show. Like, what's a fancy dress? But this is our show. HaveSuchAGoodDay.com is where you can find all of our new episodes. But we really do hope that, because we have gotten quite a few questions of people being like, "Oh, is there a video show?" Like, "Oh, we thought this was an audio podcast." It is. That's what it is, and we want to keep it that way. But we're also hoping that some of our extras that we're providing to patrons, and these are tiers, so definitely go to patreon.com/haveagoodday, have such a good day to get a little bit more context. But we're always trying to flesh that stuff out in order to keep the community happy.
Yeah, definitely. And if you guys ever have any ideas or thoughts or anything, please let us know. Email us at hi@havesuchAgoodday.com, or you can actually on Patreon, there's a community board. We spend a lot of time talking with you guys, and we would like to continue. So please just, send us notes, talk to us, join the Discord, $10 a month.
Or more.
Or more.
Or yes, or more. Discord is not part of Patreon, but the two work tandem really nicely.
They're very cool. I highly recommend, if you don't know what we're talking about and it sounds like gibberish, Patreon, Discord, all these crazy names, They're very cool platforms. I highly recommend looking into them. I'll write a post about it because they are very fascinating platforms and we love them so much. But yeah, join us on either of those, both of those. And we're actually doing every month, every 3 weeks, we're going to do a Ask Us Anything on Discord. So don't miss out.
Yeah, if you've ever heard of the AMAs on Reddit, same idea, except that Discord has a really cool feature where you can, for, I don't know, whatever your system you're using, open up your mic and it's sort of a real-time voice chat thing.
It's super futuristic. It's cool. I highly recommend it.
And Heather and I we'd love to meet more of you. I mean, it's so nice to see your emails and your tweets and your messages and all of that good stuff. But it'd be kind of fun for us to hear each other's voices a little bit more often. And if you happen to have come across the show and want to know a little bit more about us, Have Such a Good Day is truly, the idea of it is to make everyone's life a little bit brighter through our community that we're hoping to harness.
Yeah.
And we talk about things that are fun or not fun or funny or disturbing or anything in between. But again, that sort of human component, not to be too gushy, is a big part of what we have brought to the table. And we've gotten a really good amount of good feedback about
we really
this so
have
far.
And it's almost like rooted from like Sarah and I's relationship, which is kind of cool. The show just came out of her and I. We support each other through thick and thin, through happy and sad. And so we're like, it just sort of like the show kind of came out of that. But we make each other laugh. Boy, do we laugh. So we thought, let's just make a show. Let's talk about all the stuff that we talk about. Let's bring everybody into our home and have intimate conversations about things that we all care about so that we can feel less alone in this very, very beautiful yet scary and strange universe that we live in.
Amen to that. So Heather, I wanted to mention before we get into the meat of the show, I had 2 house guests over the last week.
That's a lot for you.
It is, because again, I love my friends, and any friend who's either watching or listening should never feel like I'm trying to not have you come stay with me. However, I am weird about people in my house. That's just me.
She's weird about me being here right now.
Yeah,
She's just giving me the side eye.
I dislike it a lot. Nah, just kidding. But no, hosting people in your private space. I live alone.
Yeah.
It changes the whole dynamic.
Sure.
I want everyone to be comfortable.
Yeah.
Are you comfortable enough? Are you hungry? Are you thirsty? You want another blanket? Like, I go a little nuts. Anyway, I had a couple really, really good friends of mine stay, and the first friend of mine, actually, when she's from Sebastopol, which is the town I grew up in, she way back in the day, gave us one of her cat's kittens, and it ended up being our cat Luther, and it's a whole thing. So my mom is always like, Erin, she's Luther's mother. She gave us this wonderful Maine Coon. Yeah, actually a Norwegian forest cat, and then
Charlie.
Yeah, exactly. And my other friend Andy she was like, I'm mildly allergic to cats, which you are sometimes a little
depending
bit.
on the cat. Yeah.
Right. So I was sort of like, well, I hope it's okay.
Yeah. And
I was so proud, and I just want to, just go ahead and just be a little boastful here for a second, that she was like, this is really weird to have 2 cats who sort of sorry if you guys hear the music outside. I live on a nice busy street in Venice in the summer. She was like, your cats aren't making me sneeze, and they're all over her. Yeah, because they love totally. If I have company, they're like, we're gonna sit on your lap and look at you intently. So
it was one happy family.
It was one happy family, and I felt like, okay, well, I'm glad I swept and everything beforehand, but.
You're such a good host.
Yeah, my cats didn't
I
make
did
you
notice
sneeze.
that your place is a little cleaner than usual. I'm glad that you feel that you need to clean for when I come over.
That too, Heather. That too.
Well, that sounds like a really exciting week for you.
It was. Did you have a week as well?
I did. I had an interesting week.
Okay.
There was a lot going on, a lot of interesting stuff. But the one thing that stuck out for me, I have a friend who lives in Montpellier, France.
Okay.
She's not French. She married a French man. She was my best friend in second grade.
Oh.
And we were very close the few years that she lived in my hometown, and then she kind of moved around. But we've always stayed relatively close. She sends me a postcard like almost once a month.
That's so nice.
It's so cool. And I got one this week, and I can't tell you how nice it is to receive a postcard. It's like you get this pile of those stupid coupons that you'll never use, or like just a lot of junk mail. And you get this cute little postcard from, where was she this time? She was in somewhere in France. I can't remember, but I put it on my refrigerator, and now I have about 20 of them on my refrigerator.
All from
it's
her?
Just like it's amazing. Like, it's just, her name is Nicole, and
Shout out to Nicole
Bonjour.
Montpellier.
Yes. Anyway, so that's my exciting thing for the week, is I got a postcard. It's
Well,
old technology. Well, it's not even technology.
Well, and one might say, what's so cool about that? But I think the last postcard I got was from you, and it was years ago.
I see it on your refrigerator
and
right now.
And it is. It's up on my refrigerator,
from
because I was
Paris.
like, that's so nice. Now, I am a combination of lazy and a bad friend. And also, I don't believe in paper. So I'm like, well, that requires a stamp and like a pen. Mm-hmm. Like the sending of the postcard, it's not like it's expensive or anything, but it's like, how do you find pens to like write things on postcards? Because
You're a penless person.
I like to pretend that we're in a wireless world,
I know, you always have been that way.
even though we're not.
Yeah.
In fact, if Meredith Feynman is listening to this, and I know you're not, but one day, maybe you will be, she has like 450 pens, and she loves them all for different reasons.
I love pens too, actually.
Yeah.
I love
like ink and
Sure.
the whole way that it looks and everything is like, pens are very interesting to
Oh yeah,
people.
you know what I do? I take pens from like the restaurants that I like. When you sign the bill and they have like a cool pen and it has like the name of the restaurant
And you
or something.
steal the
yeah,
pen?
I do.
Wow.
I do.
Have you ever stolen a pen from a restaurant where you're like, this might be like a pretty nice pen that like they're gonna be like not that thrilled with that I took it?
Not really, because I never take if it's a really amazing fountain pen which it never is. It's usually just like a little.
Why would they give
a
you
little like clicky,
Yeah.
little Bic pen that just has the name of the restaurant, but it's cute because it's like pink writing and it's like whatever.
And they probably had like a lot of them made, so it's not
completely. It's like taking a matchbook kind of thing.
or one of those like red candle holders.
Yeah.
That
Oh,
all the
totally.
bars have, that like everyone has like at least one or two in a cupboard somewhere.
I think the biggest thing I stole from a restaurant, which I don't steal from restaurants on a regular basis, but
Well, it sounds
the
like
two
you do, Heather.
The two things I did once steal a wooden pepper mill from Nopa and a reserved sign. Those little like triangle.
And
I think I was
Nopa,
being-
for anyone who doesn't know, it's a fairly upscale restaurant in San Francisco.
I used to live down the street from
Nothing
there.
like, it's not like high
No.
fancy, but it's something where
It's
they
like
would
a neighborhood gem, like
they-
a little boutique-y spot.
they would have nice pepper there.
They had a nice pepper mill. I still have it to this day. It's a great pepper mill. It's not like I knew the owner. It's not like I'm trying to like pull one over,
Right.
It was, someone dared me and I put it in my purse. I probably had a couple cocktails. So I was like, no big deal.
You're a thief. It's cool. That's cool. I mean, hey, we're all trying to get it to know each other. Hopefully, some of you thieves out there feel just a little less alone.
Speaking of thieves.
Speaking of thieves, So this is a little bit of a tech story, but I think that it resonates with a lot of folks who, if you have a Twitter account, right? Let's say that you do something that let's say that I tweeted something that you thought was highly offensive, and so did the rest of society, or whatever, right? Okay, well, what role does Twitter have in like policing the stuff that I say? And like, how does free speech,
Sure.
supersede that, or does it? And is it platform by platform, right? So that's sort of the overarching question, which would apply to Facebook or LinkedIn or a blog or anything. Well, so Alex Jones, who runs InfoWars, and I don't even want to talk about this guy because he's not my kind of guy, but he got suspended from Twitter. And the reason this is significant is that Twitter is the only major social platform. And this, again, includes Facebook and Vimeo and YouTube and, pretty much everybody where a video and entertainment / news personality would have a presence. Twitter was the only network that was like, well, I mean, we can't really like ban him outright. And all the other networks were like, no, we are. This is it's no good.
Yeah.
So what Twitter did was they instituted a 7-day suspension, which is almost like being suspended from school rather than being expelled.
Yeah.
Right. So what it means is, if they did that to me, I could access my timeline. I could see what people were tweeting. I wasn't blocked from anything, but I couldn't respond.
Yeah.
So I was silenced.
Yeah.
And that, depending on who you are, is either going to infuriate you or not be really much of a ban at all. But this is something that is new to Twitter, where people are like, okay, well, if other platforms that are like your direct competitors are doing this, and this is somebody that well, Heather and I might disagree with what this person is saying, but not everybody does.
Yeah, you're being punished by like a website.
Well,
it's interesting.
But the website isn't going so far as to say, fuck you.
Yeah.
You're out of here. We don't want you.
Yep.
They're saying, this is all a little bit more nuanced, so we're going to do this weird kind of passive
to like
thing.
teach you a lesson or something.
But it's not even part of their terms of service. It's like we're kind of making up the rules as we go along.
So is this guy, what is this guy doing about it? Is he upset?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, he can jump off a pier as far as I'm concerned. But I do think it's important as sort of a precedent, as more and more people have, public facing personas. Think about like on Instagram. It's like, oh, if someone posts a picture of a nipple, right? Well, if it's a woman, right?
Yes.
You're not supposed to do that. And you get flagged and you get reported and you have to take the photo. Like, there's all of these sort of rules that we have in place where for the most part, people kind of know what behavior works and what doesn't and what's, going to get you in trouble. And Twitter is sort of paving their own way this whole thing. So I find the whole thing fascinating because I love Twitter more than the average person.
You do. So what would happen if I did something on Patreon that was, I don't know, like what would they not like?
What do you mean on Patreon?
Well, just on our video today.
Oh,
what would be against the rules? I don't even know. We need to read their terms of service because we don't even know what is unacceptable.
Well, I think as long as you're not denying the fact that 9/11 happened, then you're on the right track.
Okay. Sounds good.
Anyway, so that's your tech minute. Got a little up to date on Twitter, and these are the things that I think about. Like, what does it like?
No, it is fascinating.
Yeah, like if you say, if someone threatens to assassinate a person in, a government role, right? That's illegal. Like, you can't, there are certain things that we cannot do.
Yeah.
And if you do it, you're going to be in a world of hurt, right?
Are people in like in a sort of uproar about this?
It's a pretty big story.
It's a big deal.
Not so much a story about this particular person and this particular network, which happens to be conservative. And again, we're just going to go ahead and bypass that whole thing because we don't want to get into that. But it's a story where it's almost like if you said, well, this lower court ruled this way, but then the Supreme Court overturned it. But like, we're setting a precedent that never existed before.
Yeah.
And it actually changes the lives of you and me, depending on what we want to say in the future and what the repercussions might be because of that.
Well, it sounds like
and how the
technology.
Constitution fits into it. Again, the U.S. Constitution, but yeah.
Technology is sort of like, pushes the envelope with this stuff. It always has, It's interesting.
Tech man.
Well, so I know that you talked a little bit, it was a couple weeks ago, I think, about some things that you were watching that you were interested in. And I thought
when you say that, you mean like your
TV, movies.
Okay, so those things.
Yes, those things.
not just my neighbor.
No, not like just
slinking around at 4 in the
out
morning.
there. Yeah. Although that would be an interesting conversation.
It would. And trust me, like I am self-appointed neighborhood watch. Like you guys can't see, but right out here, I have a little balcony, and like sometimes at night where I'm like, what's that noise? You know, like I'm your 85-year-old, 95-year-old, 80 decibel neighbor being like, what's going on out there?
Yeah, you should create a Twitter account and just like update the neighbors and stuff. I think that would be a good idea.
Anybody who lives in my neighborhood follows Venice 311, which is, I don't know if you've heard of Venice 311. I have not met this person. I believe it's a woman. I'm dying to meet her. It's one of those sort of like hyper local social accounts where, they're listening to like APB stuff and, like they like know a couple of the people who like fly the helicopters for the news orgs. And so they kind of get information, and
that's kind of, I love that stuff.
It's so cool.
We listen to the, when we hear, because there's a lot of helicopters in my neighborhood too, but we'll turn on our little radar, like it's a little like police radar app. and yeah, it's fascinating to hear what's going on. But yeah, so I wanted to ask you, I thought we could do a little back and forth.
Back to entertainment.
Yeah.
Let's escape our reality.
Let's do it.
Okay.
So I was thinking though, we're halfway through the year, right? We're, one of our Sarah's cat is trying to jump up to hit our camera, which is my phone.
If I sound silent again, it's because Sam wants to. He's good at bogarting things.
Come on,
Samuel. Very bad boy.
That's gonna knock over the phone.
All right,
just anyway,
just keep going.
So I thought
I'll throw him into the sea,
along with me.
Right.
So it's we're July. No, we're August. So
we're August 15th.
Insane.
We are almost to September.
I don't like this. I don't like this at all.
I don't either.
Your birthday's coming up already.
So is yours.
Well, I know.
At that
it's always coming up, isn't it? Anyway, so I thought that maybe it was a good time to talk about our favorite shows of 2018 so far.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Okay. So I think you're going to agree with me on some of these. You actually are the one that told me about Killing Eve. I loved that show. That was probably up there with my top 3 so far. I'm a huge fan of Better Call Saul. It's the spinoff of Breaking Bad. And oh my God, I just love that show. It's so great. And then Handmaid's Tale, obviously, Barry, Atlanta. I mean, there's a bunch more, but I would say the one that really I can't stop thinking about, it's kind of like when you get an album, a friend says, this is the best album I've heard in a long time. And you listen to it and it's like, it's okay. But then you listen to it again and again, and you're like, I really like this. Yeah. You went from being really skeptical and it being sort of flat, and then it kind of unravels itself. And then you're like, wow, this is much more profound than I ever thought. Well, Succession on HBO, I mean, you can't really expect much less than greatness on HBO. They do a pretty great job.
Sure.
It's just, it was so unassuming. When I wasn't even interested in it. Just thinking the premise is about this rich family. I thought, oh, billions, over again. But it's so much more than that. It's shot like a mockumentary, which is interesting because it is a drama. Even though the script is funny, it's not a comedy.
And I think anybody who watched either the UK or American version of The Office,
totally.
That's the mockumentary thing where it's kind of quick zooms, there's a documentary crew in here that's
you're
picking up on things.
In the room with these people, you feel very intimate. You feel like you are hanging out with them, which I think is so cool. But it's not as funny as The Office. It's not as lighthearted, but the way they shoot it, such an interesting. I think it's so cool. Whoever decided to shoot it in this way is so cool. Has this kind of cringe humor, which is, it's kind of like social awkwardness. Again, the mockumentary thing. Anyway, it's a great show. Handheld camera. Can't stop thinking about it. I love it.
It's sort of like
great characters too.
Arrested Development or Modern Family would also have that kind of cringe
Arrested
humor.
Development's a good example. I mean, actually, because the handheld, the quick zooms.
Those are both straight up comedies. Where it's off-color humor. You know, and Succession is not a comedy.
No,
but it has
such funny writing though.
Yeah, there's a lot of comedic, relatable stuff going on, and it's rare that a show, everyone is pretty shitty.
Yes, but they're hard to like.
But you root for people who are deeply flawed.
Yeah, it is a really interesting thing because there is clearly like very good character development, which doesn't always happen that way. And so you would think there would be like a hero or someone but you are weirdly rooting for some people, even though none of them are very heroic like.
No.
It is a fascinating show. It's very profound, very brilliantly written. I mean, just the humor is so funny. One of my favorite lines is when the main guy is actually, he's like, Logan can't swim. He doesn't even trust water. It's too wishy-washy. Like it's such a cool, like biting sense of humor. I love it. It's hilarious.
Logan's the dad of the family.
Logan's the dad.
It's a big family. If you haven't seen the show, we're both giving it thumbs up.
Yes.
It is really good. And this is not a show about Silicon Valley.
No.
But it's a show about a media company that's run by a family and
in New York.
And sort of the back and forth
the dysfunction of the family members.
Right. And how power drives people.
Yeah, power and money.
Right. And how horrible people sometimes are.
Yes.
But at the same time, not heartless. Mm-hmm. Great show. Great show. Highly recommended. You know what I don't recommend, Heather? Like I'm trying to segue and it just wasn't working, but
I've seen this. I saw this coming.
Let's talk about online dating and how it's worse for us women than it is for men.
Yeah.
I know you're shocked. Please, I hope you're sitting down, everybody. I know you didn't think that, in any aspect of life, women might have it a little bit harder than men, but this is actually really interesting because this is a study that was conducted. And what's funny about it is, and I think we talked about this last week when I talked about the stand-up show Nanette, which this New York Times article that was talking about the study actually started the article with one of her sort of, not one-liners, but stories from her stand-up show that was about Pablo Picasso, who, as an older man, again, one of the most world-renownedest,
absolutely,
painters ever, but also modern enough that there is quite a bit of documentation about his life and how he lived it and who he was with and blah, blah, blah. As an older man, he dated somebody who he would go to jail for dating if it were today, right? Okay, it was a long time ago, but still. All right. Well, put that aside for a second. But if you're thinking about the idea of, one person in a relationship is quite a bit older than the other person, or maybe that older person is a woman, and how do we all feel about that? And there's some discrepancies, right? At least sociologically. But this particular study noted that the desirability of females on dating apps, again, and this is a small sample size if you're thinking about all the people on dating apps, was that women peaked at 18 years old.
I don't know about that.
And men peaked at 50.
That is such a discrepancy.
That's a 5-0, Heather.
Huge.
Yeah. I mean, to the point where it's like, okay, well, we've all seen a 50-year-old man dating an 18-year-old woman.
Sure.
They're both adults. Mm-hmm. But there's eye rolling that goes on. Mm-hmm. There is. Not necessarily from me. Depends on the person. Mm-hmm. But that's a big age difference. It is.
Huge.
Do you have things in common? Great. Well, it's not going to be the normal things that you have in common with someone your own age. Mm-hmm. It's going to be something else.
Yeah.
And best of luck. But think about flipping that. Men peaking at 18 and women peaking at 50. What a different world this would be.
I mean, it's kind of incredible that we were both made to be with each other because we're so vastly different, It's just, it's magical and also cruel.
Well, so that's the dating world that we live in.
Oh yeah. In fact, I get updates from my friend Raina, sends me updates from her experiences, and they're quite comedic. Just, seeing what's out there, seeing how, guys are taking photographs of themselves and putting them on their profile. One guy had a photograph of his feet. Yeah, it's really a strange world out there. Anyways, every episode of our show comes out every Thursday or Friday. New episodes are at havesuchagooddday.com, and you can find us on pretty much any podcast app of your choice. Always free, the audio version.
iTunes or Stitcher or
Pocket Casts
or Overcast or Downcast or I don't know. I mean, let us know if there's a podcast app that you can't find us on. Let us know, because I will consider that a challenge.
We will do it. We might be on Spotify. We are on SoundCloud, but I think we ran out of space, so we just need to figure that one out.
Yeah, Heather and I are on a shoestring budget.
We really are.
And so that's part of a lot of our tiers.
In fact,
and our goals on Patreon, if you want to check them out.
Yeah, man. Honestly, though, if you guys really like listening on SoundCloud, please let me know, because we just want to know who is really dedicated to listening on SoundCloud, so we know to keep it up. So please let us know.
You know, before we get into our next topic, one of my friends who was staying over the weekend was telling me, because I'm out of the dating app thing. I'm just like, I don't know what's going on. I know that Tinder is supposed to be like the great unwashed, right? And then like Bumble is cool because it's like girl has to like reach out to the guy first. So you're supposed to like filter out like the creeps, right? Even though like fills me with like so much anxiety and dread. I never want to reach out first. But okay, great. But then she was like, no, Tinder was whatever. And then there was Bumble, but now there's Hinge.
Yeah, Hinge.
And Hinge is like the cool one. I'm like, is it? Like what? But then she was like, but Sarah, it's starting to come back around again. We're like, Tinder is now like, because everybody sort of finds out about the other networks because you're sort of chasing the like cooler dating pool of people who are like more in the know.
Yeah.
Very social networky.
Totally.
Same thing.
Totally.
And now she's like, Tinder is like almost coming back around
That's
again.
so
Is
funny.
like cool again for people who are like normal and that you'd want to meet. So I'm like,
I don't know.
All right, I'll
I
just
think
go
you
ahead and
could-
pass that along.
I think you could maybe meet someone in the produce aisle at Trader Joe's. I mean, maybe try that.
Who goes to Trader Joe's? I'm just kidding. Please don't message me. I know that will upset so many people. I don't like Trader Joe's. I don't like it.
Yeah, I think it's gotten better. I like some products there, but the problem is you go to Trader Joe's, but then there's some stuff that they don't have. So then that means you have to go to 2 stores.
That's the problem.
That's my gripe with it.
I have no problem with what they offer. It's just that they don't offer a full grocery experience.
They don't.
And I only want to go to one store.
Yeah. I mean, who wants to go to 2 stores?
Period.
Hey, Sarah, I wanted to clarify.
Yeah.
Because, I do talk about science a lot, but
That's
I
true.
wanted to let you guys know the reason why I like science. It's not just because it's fascinating, but it does it makes me in a better mood because it makes my life seem less significant in a way, because I'm in this huge universe.
And that's a good thing
it's a good
because
thing.
it humbles you.
Oh, it totally humbles me.
Yeah.
And so I worry less because say I have a worrisome week. When I read about science and I think, oh my God, they're traveling to, Mars and discovering all these crazy things and, defying gravity, I think, God, that is huge. Like that is millions and trillions of light years away from my little life on this little planet. I mean, when you really understand the size of the universe and how small we are in it, it is humbling. It really is. So I highly recommend that if anyone's anxious out there, it works really well for me. So speaking of, I think this is really fascinating. So I didn't even really think about it, but it makes sense. We've never gone to the sun. I mean, why would you? But
Because you'd burn up.
yeah, pretty much. We've made our first trip to the sun.
Who's we?
Some scientists, some amazing astronauts out there.
But humans did not go to the sun.
So this probe is going to be hanging out in the sun's corona, which is a part of the sun that is hot as fuck. It's about millions of degrees Celsius.
Yeah, like what kind of probe can withstand such heat?
Well, that was a whole other article that I never read.
Sure.
But
there's some technical
materials that they use, specific materials, because of course this thing's going to melt. But that part was really fascinating. I just don't want to get into it. But they're basically their flight path is to go toward Venus, because they're going to use the gravity to propel themselves into the sun, toward the sun.
Okay.
Which I think is really interesting. I think the probe is going to be out there about 6 weeks. The data is going to help demystify things like why the sun's corona is so much hotter than its surface. and how solar wind accelerates into space. So kind of interesting stuff.
Very.
Yeah. I mean, the sun, how do you study something so hot?
Well, Heather, you know how I feel about space.
I know.
And
that's why I keep talking about space. I just want to annoy you.
No, it's, and again, if you're coming into the show and be like, well, what's the problem with space? I got no problem with space. I don't want to go to space. I think space sounds like the worst.
What if Lady Gaga
I would rather
is playing
be
in
in
space?
prison.
Wow.
I would.
Yeah.
I would, because I'd be safe on Earth
true.
where I belong. I am an Earthling. Sorry.
Yeah, you're definitely an Earthling.
I know. And one would say, well, you should probably be, think about adventuring a little bit more. But you know what? I can do that on Earth.
Mm-hmm, this is true.
That's what I want to do.
I'm not even sure if I would want to go to space, honestly. I mean,
I hate the idea of it.
And you're trapped in like a little shuttle or like,
Awful.
that I think I'm pretty claustrophobic. I already have a hard enough time flying sometimes.
Sure. Yeah.
But it would be neat to see the view of like be away from the Earth and see the Earth there's some things that fascinate me but I still don't know if I was asked, I'm not sure I would go. I'm not one of those people. In fact, I don't even want to skydive. Like, I just don't want to do those things. Like, I'll run a half marathon, but I'm probably not going to run a marathon.
So I have skydived exactly once, but it was like, the funny thing about it is I was so happy to get back to Earth that I was like, get me out of this plane. Like, jumping out was actually not the problem. I don't want to be in the plane anymore.
Yeah.
I didn't like it. I want to be back on Earth. Like, if I have to jump to my death, that's what I'm doing. And of course I didn't die. But remember a few years ago, it was like that Red Bull sponsored jump, like the space jumper,
Totally.
who was jumping from, I guess, the highest point that had ever been attempted by a civilian. And I watched that live among lots of people, and I know some of you were among them. And like when it happened, I was sort of like kind of almost brought to tears. Like, this is really, it was really beautiful because he had a camera on it.
Absolutely.
And the whole thing, sort of, I don't know, barreling back to Earth, that kind of thing. And I found it almost like a spiritual experience. I will not do that personally.
Yeah.
There's no way. I just don't.
So you'll never
I appreciate others. I'm not going to the sun. I'm not going to Mars. I'm not going to Venus. I don't even want to go to a space station.
I don't even want to bungee jump. Like, I don't.
I'm just going to maybe be in a sailboat every once in a while and enjoy this little planet that I'm already on because I have lots of places to go.
I'll
think of all the brunch to see on Earth.
God.
I don't want to go to Mars.
And I'm pretty adventurous. I'm just not adventurous on that level. And I think there's a certain type of person that needs that level of adventure. It's just not me.
Sure.
Like, I've rock climbed, I've rafted, really advanced rivers. I've done adventurous stuff. I draw the line at certain
But again,
places.
that's all Earth-based.
It is.
Because that's...
Yeah.
I don't know. It's Heather and I were talking about the other day. And, I sort of play up my hatred of space because I know it upsets people, but I don't actually hate space. But it's like, well, look at the movie The Martian. Great movie. Loved it. Very enjoyable. Great reason not to go to Mars because look what happened to Matt Damon. He barely made it out alive. Barely.
Yeah.
No spoilers. All right. So, Heather, should we move on to some memes?
Yes, I would love to.
Okay, good. So
I love memes.
So do I. So the idea of, a meme is something that you hear over and over or see on the internet, and it's everyone knows what a meme is. One of the things that I love the most is all of the archives from Know Your Meme, because it's always one of the first Google results when I Google something where I'm like, this word, I know what it means, but where did it come from?
Yeah.
What's the origin of this meme? And it's not the only service to do so, but one of my friends was over, and Sam, I'm very sorry, by the way, I threw some lipstick at him. I don't know if anybody who does not get the video version of this earlier can't sort of see what was going on, where he was like threatening to like
funny,
ruin
actually.
our whole video situation. So I had to get him out of the room. But so Sam, speaking of, he lost a tooth some years ago. It had to be taken out because he had like a rotten mouth. And my friend was visiting, and she's like, he's so cute. Like, what's going on with that? Because his tongue kind of hangs out, and he sort of has this like, it's sort of like a cool kid, like a James Dean thing that he's doing. But like, and I said, well, he's very derpy. And she was like, that's perfect.
Yeah,
that's
very derpy.
That's exactly what he is. And then we were both like, what is that? And why do we know what that is without being able to like define it? Anyway, so that's where Know Your Meme comes in. If you look up derp on the internet, this is, again, coming from knowyourmeme.com. Derp is an expression associated with stupidity. I am so sorry, Sammy. I love you so much. Much like the earlier forms of introductions like duh and der. Right? So that's where derp comes from. In image macros, the subject is typically portrayed with eyes that are pointed to each side and a caption that reads derp. The words herp and derp are also used in rage comics to replace nondescript names or parts of conversation. See also, you are a wizard. And the whole thing goes on and on.
It's like onomatopoeia too.
Kind
it's
of.
like, you know, it's like derp.
Derp is very onomatopoeia.
I think so too. Yeah, for sure.
Because it's sort of like derp, which is. I think the funny thing about derp is you see that a lot when people talk about their pets. I'm not sure I would ever say that about a person because that might be insulting, right? Like if I said if you said something and I go, duh, Heather, it's like, okay. But if I was like, well, you look really derpy, I just probably wouldn't do that because you might be like, why?
That would be
That's not very nice. But my cat Sam does look derpy.
Punch you in the face.
And I love him a lot. Let's
or
avoid,
I'd kick you in the shin or something.
Let's avoid that.
Yeah, let's do that.
So anyway, just made me think of the origin of derp.
I love derp. In fact, it goes back to the whole slang thing. I just love slang words. I love them. I think they're because it's such a fun. I wonder. So is that word in the dictionary?
I don't know, but I do know that the first origin seems to be traced back to the 1998 film Basketball by Trey Parker and Matt Stone, who of course made South Park.
South Park. It actually is in the dictionary. Well, at least it's in the, I think
Merriam-Webster.
Yep.
Well, that's as much dictionary as I need.
Derpier, derpiest, derpy.
Derp, derp, derp.
Derpy's even a word. Cool. Well, I love that, Sarah. I think we should do a meme,
Thanks,
a meme,
Heather.
a meme minute,
a meme. Amendment. First amendment. See, it all comes back.
I love it. Love me some memes. So Sarah, the other day, I did this. It's just like a little speech thing for Creative Mornings. I think you did one actually a few years ago.
I did.
Yeah. Well, it was actually more like a couple months ago.
It was. Creative Mornings is this really cool global community that is, with many cities that participate, where somebody who has a lot to maybe share with the class for but for lack of a better word,
like for creatives,
and maybe has interesting stories or some things to tell folks. And Heather and I both participated in the Los Angeles chapter of it.
Yeah, and it's really cool. It's like people come and they have coffee and donuts and you just kind of talk about your experiences. It's kind of like this. It's a little rogue, and you don't have to have a PowerPoint presentation or anything. You just kind of riff about your experiences. Anyway, it was a great experience for me. A lot of people asked what the biggest inspiration has been for me in my career and just in life in general. And Sarah and I were talking about this morning. There was a really cool article about Jean-Luc Godard, who's a French New Wave filmmaker. He's probably one of the most known French filmmakers. And he made films, as early as in the 50s, 60s, 70s.
What's your favorite Jean-Luc Godard film?
I like a lot of them, but I love Breathless is a real classic. It's the American in Paris. I love Band of Outsiders. I love A Woman is a Woman. I love most of his are pretty good. There's some, he's got Alphaville, which is more of a sci-fi, which is a little bit different for him. But what I love about him and what I realized, it was a huge sort of groundbreaking moment for me, is that original thinkers. He's such an original. He's a guy who, his work is not derivative at all of anybody else's. It's his, his style is so unconventional. He
does he have a signature cinematic thing?
Oh yeah,
where you're
definitely.
That's your thing and nobody else does this, or if they do, that they're imitating him.
Yes, he breaks the fourth wall, which is a huge one. Does a lot of jump cuts. That's another one that he's known for, is when, like a scene is cut in a way that jumps and it's a little awkward, but he does it in an artistic way. It's intentional. Yeah. He does this funny thing where he does these dramatic, he's very anti-commercialism, so he stages these scenes, these sort of arty death scenes that have like red paint as blood, but it's like very clearly red paint. He mixes black and white and color. He does text on the screen, like he'll kind of pop like a message, and it's usually like kind of a wacky, poetic message that's cool. Like
this sort of preceded pop art, right?
Yeah, I would say it's sort of pop arty film in a lot of ways.
But I would say that some of the more modern movies we see now, it's like, well, that was actually where a lot of inspiration was drawn from, but people don't always know that.
Absolutely. And, I like him because he's a rogue, like he does his own thing. He does these cool things where, he'll use like big actors, like seasoned actors, but he'll also use just random people. And he kind of does this nice little mix. He does these things like if he has to get a tracking shot, he'll use a wheelchair. He'll have a cameraman go in a wheelchair to do the tracking shot as opposed to, getting a Steadicam or whatever.
Probably a way to save some money.
Well, absolutely. He's very resourceful. He's super, super creative. Anyway, I just wanted to mention him. He's if you guys aren't familiar with his work, him and Francois Truffaut are kind of the two that are probably the most prominent French New Wave filmmakers. Truffaut is also wonderful. I would say Godard is a little more experimental than Truffaut, but they're both two of my favorite filmmakers. So I just thought I would share that.
Yeah, it's sort of like our star of the week.
Yeah,
on some form, yes. Right? And trust me, Heather, I know maybe some of you were thinking, for the first time, like, that's really interesting. Didn't know that she liked this director. Well, I do, because you got posters on it. Like, this is something that you actually you care a lot about cinema.
I do.
And you care a lot about directors that move you. Yeah. And I think if somebody were to say, who's the one?
It would be him.
I would say Jean-Luc Godard.
Yeah, and also, I studied French in school, and I think he kind of propelled me into my industry, being a producer. I mean, granted, I'm not making amazing films like he is, as I probably should, but yeah, I would say he kind of got me into what I do today. So thank you, Jean-Luc. You're the man.
Thank you, Jean-Luc. I feel like there was a Nescafe commercial about this at some point. Maybe I'm mixing up by Jean-Luc's. It's funny. Just like total aside, when we were talking about, how we got into this world that we're in and we're still in. When I was in high school, I was part of the video class. Yeah. We called it ROP, Video Regional Occupational Programming. I don't even know what that means, but that's what it was at the time. But it was the video class. Like we did the daily video bulletin. Yeah. And, we learned about, how commercials use fear or sex or, guilt to get you to buy things. And, also it was very impactful to me. And I was always sort of I like to be a performer, right? So I, of course, was, doing the daily bulletin. And I just, if you're out there, man, his name was Chet Davis. Old Chet. Well, that was our video teacher. I guess you're not a professor if you're teaching video in high school, but we all used to be like, Chet D, the place to be. And he'd be like, don't call me that. I am Mr. Davis. But everyone would be like, shut up, Chet. And, we were really awful. However, you made a big impact on my life. And to this day, it's like, that was the moment where I was like, it took me a while to kind of get to the point where I was like, oh, maybe I'm going to do this for a job. Yeah. Because it seemed so fun. It was almost too fun to be a job.
Yeah, I thought that too.
Yeah. And, I was a math major I kind of had to come around, but it was definitely Chet Davis. Chet D.
There's always those,
in high school where I was like, you actually planted the seed that is cool. Why we're sitting here right now doing our thing.
That's why I think it is cool. High school teachers and college professors, they really do make a difference.
And I hope everybody, I know some people don't, have teachers that really, were, close to them or impacted them or influenced them in a good way. And I really don't have many. I had teachers that I liked more than others. But that was something where I'm like, that was where my career started.
Well,
and
mine
I was a
kid. Mr. Keplinger at Los Gatos High.
Yeah?
I'm not kidding you. He taught me French. And I was in AP French, like I loved it. And I never, ever thought I would take it anywhere serious.
Yeah.
But I took the classes, even though I didn't have to after the first 2 mandatory years. But I just loved it so much because the way he taught.
You enjoyed it.
I loved it. And he made me really appreciate, like he opened my mind for sure. So, you know, hats off to
Keplinger.
Mr. Keplinger.
Do you know if he's still around or?
He's not.
Oh, he's not. Oh dear.
No,
well,
he's not.
You know what? R.I.P.
No. Yes, definitely.
Rest in power, Monsieur.
Yes, Mr. Keplinger.
And with that, we're gonna go ahead and wrap up this show.
We are
Weird as usual, but hey, Heather, we would be remiss if we did not mention that for our patrons, the conversation continues.
Oh, it does.